Welcome to MacBreak Studio. I'm Mark Spencer, and we're not doing a RippleLIVE edition this week because Steve and I are actually in LA doing some training. So I'm coming to you today to show you a tip on how to use motion to create a transition for Final Cut Pro 10. And this tip is for anybody who uses Final Cut Pro 10 and might be curious about motion and what you can do with it. And I want to make it easy for you to kind of jump into motion, do something useful very quickly that you can then use in Final Cut. So let's take a look. So here we are in Motion's project browser, which opens by default when you launch Motion. I'm going to select a Final Cut transition project. Broadcast 1080 is fine. It really doesn't matter what you select here. It'll adjust for your project. But let's start with Broadcast HD 1080, 2997. Frame rate really doesn't matter as well. I'm going to leave that at 2 seconds and click Open. Now, the very first thing I'm going to do is select the project, go over to the inspector, select Properties, and then click this Override FCP Duration checkbox. That'll force this transition to last for the full 2 seconds rather than the default that you've set up for Final Cut, which defaults to 1 second, but you can change that. Okay, now we've done that. I'm going to press Shift-Z to fit this to the window here. And right now, Transition A, the outgoing clip, goes halfway through, and then we switch to Transition B, which is the incoming clip. I want both of these to exist for the full project, so I'll select Transition B, tap I for an in. You can also drag these by hand. I'm just using keyboard shortcuts. Transition A, I'll tap O, so these both last for the full project. Okay, that's step 2. Step 3 is to add a camera. Object, New Camera. Now you may be new to motion, and that's fine. Even though we're jumping right into 3D, we're just going to do something very simple here. I'll click Switch to 3D, and there we see get a camera, and this is our heads-up display. Move it over for a minute. Step 4 is to add a behavior to animate the camera. So under Behaviors, I'm going to choose Camera Framing. The framing behavior will animate the camera to move to whatever you tell it to move to. That's the target. So I'm going to drag Transition B into that target well. I'm going to make a few changes here in the heads-up display. I'm not going to explain them. I'm going to tell you that you should do them. I'm going to change the orientation to Orient to Final. It just makes for a better animation. Change the position and rotation transition times to 100% so that the animation takes the full duration of the project, and change the transition to Ease Both for a smoother animation. Great. Now, if we scrub through the project, nothing's happening because both the Transition A and Transition B placeholders are in the exact same position. Let's go to a top view using the compass here. I'm going to press Shift-Z, which fits everything to the window, and then I'll actually drag on this right-hand tool here, which will dolly out so we can see the whole scene. So we're looking down on our scene. Our Transition A and B are right here. We're looking on the edge from the top, and this triangle is our camera. So if I take Transition B, for example, I'm going to zoom out even further and move it back behind the camera. Let me select the camera so we can see the camera now. And if we play that, the camera now pulls back to reveal Transition B. Let's go back to the active camera view using this camera menu here and see what it looks like from the point of view of the camera. And there we created a transition just like that. I'll press Command S to save, and I'll call it Cam Move. I'll create a new category called Camera Transitions, and click Publish. I'll switch over to Final Cut, open the Transitions browser, go to the new Camera Transitions category we just selected, and there's our camera move. So I'll throw this on an edit point here, and of course you need enough media for a full 2-second duration. And if I play, we now have a simple pullback. Great. Now, I want to give you some options here. This is where things get interesting. Let's go back to the top view. No matter where you put Transition B, the camera will follow it. For example, we could put it on the other side of Transition A, and I'm just going to pan down to make some more room. I'll push it way back this way. If I select the camera, we can see the camera now moves straight in the opposite direction. I'm going to go back to the active camera view and play that. And we start from the first clip and push through to the second clip. Okay. Let's go back to the top view. We could also take Transition B and move it in to the left or right and even rotate it. These little handles here are rotation handles, And if I rotate it, you can see the camera rotating with it right there. If I select the camera and we look what's happening now, the camera will rotate to move to that. So you can move it in any direction you want. That's one thing I want you to get. The last thing I want you to understand is how you can adjust the framing behavior. So to see that, I'm going to select the framing behavior, and we can change the path of travel. Right now, the path of travel is a straight line, but we can adjust that and create an arc. So now we have an arc as we're looking straight down on that path of travel. And let's go back to the active camera view. I'll use the keyboard shortcut this time, Control A. Or this time I'll go to a right view. So from this perspective, the camera still seems to be moving in a straight line because it's moving kind of away from us, but we can also have it move up like that. So let's go to a perspective view just so you can see what I'm talking about. And I'll zoom way out and pan over and orbit a little bit just so you can see what the camera's doing here. So now it's starting in one place, it's jumping up in the air and shifting off to the right to go frame transition B. And we looked at the active camera point of view, we can see what that looks like. Okay, finally, let's go back to the top view. I'm going to select this framing behavior, and in the behaviors inspector here, I'm going to reset this path offset. I'll also select transition B and go to its properties and reset both its position and rotation, and then just move it straight back. This is the final thing I'll leave you with for now. If I select the framing behavior, we just move straight from A to B, which is not that interesting because if we go to the camera point of view, we start on one and just kind of push through. It's not bad, but let's do one little thing to improve it. With that framing behavior selected, we can also offset the path along the path. Rather than bending it in one direction or another, I can pull back to make the camera pull back before it shoots through to transition B. I'll move transition B a little closer. So if we look at what happens now, when I play, the camera takes a little pull back before it pushes through that first clip there. So let's have it pull back a little bit more. I'll select the framing behavior and pull back a little bit more. There we go. Control A for the active camera view. And then we pull back and push through to the next clip. I'll hit Command S to save, Command Tab to switch back to Final Cut Pro. I'll double click it to replace the one that's in the project now. We pull back and push through to the next clip. So just a quick idea on how you can use motion to create an animated 3D transition and a couple of options on how you can modify it. All right, I hope you found that useful. If you want to dive deeper into motion and you're a Final Cut Pro 10 editor, check out our Warp Speed Motion for Final Cut Pro Editor tutorial at rippletraining.com. Next week, we'll be back with RippleLIVE once again, Thursday, 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. We'll have announcements out about that, so hope to see you there. Thanks for watching.